Welcome to another episode of Illuminated Minds, where we examine primary source information that empowers the faith of the true believers and true seekers worldwide alike. I am your host, Don Yehuda. This is episode 3, and we'll be referencing the book, Who is Esau-Edom? So let's begin, family. So who are the Edomites of today? There's a lot of information on who Edom is online, so we're going to go into that during this episode. But if you're interested, just type in Esau or Edom and you'll see a plethora of videos that'll come up and information that substantiate who Edom is. But we want to look at who are the people who have world domination in their sights. So let's take a look at this book, Who is Esau-Edom, and see what we can pull out of it. The best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible. So we see right here, the context is the Jews, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and other people of Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and both stocks make up the present-day Jews, as the historian H.G. Wells states. The Idumeans, Edomites, were made Jews, and the Turkish people, Khazars, were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry was never in Judea and had never come out of Judea. So, family, we're looking at a glimpse of the origin of the global elites. These are the players that are involved in the international affairs of the world, whether it's the economy, whether it's raging war, legislation making, various institutions and organizations, you name it, family, their hands are in it. Their ancestry goes back to the Chazars and the Turks. So let's continue reading, family, and see what other information we can unearth, right? The next book, titled The Destiny of America with an Appendix, Who Are the Japanese, states, the Edomite family name Teman in Hebrew is Theman, and linguistically identical to Theman, Alfman, Othman, Osman, or Ottoman. Check that out. Or Ottoman. Osman, Ottoman, or Othman is an Edomite family name. Let me repeat that, family. The Edomite family name Teman in Hebrew is Theman, and linguistically identical to Theman, Othman, Osman, or Ottoman, as in the Ottoman Turks, is an Edomite family name. According to this book, we see that the Turkish stock is of Edomite descent. So the accounts show that both ends of the Jewish lineage traces back to Esau. Interesting, family. Let's continue back in the book, Who is Esau-Edom? Hasdai ibn Shraput, who was foreign minister to Abd al-Rahman, Sultan of Cordova, in his letter to King Joseph of the Khazars, speaks of the tradition according to which the Khazars once dwelt near the Seir mountains. You see that, family? It said the Khazars once dwelt near the Seir mountains. Now, this reference in this book actually is derived from the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 4. Page 3 is the 1905 edition. Let's continue. The Seir Mountains are none other than the original land of Esau-Edom. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. You find that in the book of Genesis, chapter 36 and verse 8. If the Khazars did originally dwell near the Seir Mountains, then the Khazars and thus world Jewry are racially of Edomite stock. You see that? It says, thus world Jewry are racially of Edomite stock. And that Jewry traces back to the Khazars and to the Turks. So we see right here through the information is tying world Jewry to Edom. The word Edom actually means red, just as the name Esau signifies red. This character thus represents the color red. When we look at the meaning and symbolism associated with the color red in both scripture and secular history, we have a better understanding of the nature and identity of Esau-Edom and who he is to be identified with. Here are some illustrations. Red is representative of blood and bloodshed. Scarlet or red is symbolic of sin in general. The red horse of the book of Revelation signifies war and the ability to cause wars. Esau was to be warlike and live by the sword. The anti-Christian satanic system which ruled Rome was identified as a red dragon. Jews are the most anti-Christian people on the face of the earth. Now, I just did a video about the beast system and who's tied to the beast. Go watch my previous video titled, Could the Papacy Be the Beast of Revelations? Which shows the connection between Rome and the Antichrist. And in that connection that we will touch on possibly here or even better in further episodes, that they're all one and the same. They're all interlinked into the beast system and the Antichrist that's here operating upon the earth as we speak. The banking industry, which is part of Red Babylon's economic control over Christendom, is led by the Jewish banking family of Rothschild, which means red shield. The Jewish author and historian Arthur Koestler shows that the Jewish Khazars, from which many Jews are derived, which we just read earlier, were commonly known as the Red Jews. We see how the Bible prophesied a beast kingdom would come, and one of the very attributes of this very kingdom is the mention of the color red and the characters who are associated with it, i.e. Esau, the dragon, the clothing that the harlot wore that was on top of the dragon. The second horseman of the apocalypse war was red. So this colorism is very symbolic in biblical text as to who is identified as the beast, the dragon, the ones who create wars and so forth. So this is very monumental in understanding what all of these things mean when you're looking in scripture and then when you're reading other literature that helps build on this foundation. For Esau to rule or have the dominion in the nation over Jacob's descendants, he must establish his principles of law and government, socialism, his religion, Judaism, and his code of morals, Talmudic ethics. He must have his method of economics established, which is credit or usury, as well as his way of life, a Judaic society. So let's take a look at Edom's government and how they plan to implement a one world government, which is actually in the process right now. They're so far gone into this process, we're actually about to realize or visualize what it is that's been prophesied to happen. Jews have historically promoted principles of democracy, socialism, and communism, all contrary to sound biblical principles of self-government. Once all nations become democracies, socialist states, or communist regimes, it is an easy step to get them to come under a one world control. To attain this world government, some means must be procured through which it can be administered and enforced. That vehicle is the United Nations. It is the chief instrument in world government. The United Nations, like the League of Nations, was a Jewish plan and concept. It was promoted and supported by Jews and serves Jewish and Zionist goals. When a nation becomes a member of the United Nations, it surrenders its sovereignty and independent status, and now becomes subject to the international law of Edom and is not free to decide its own destiny. Now, in this next book, The Beast on the East River, the UN threat to American sovereignty and security, we're going to examine how the Jewish powers plan on world dominance and how they have already put these plans into motion. It states, then in 1962, the State Department financed a study entitled A World Effectively Controlled by the United Nations. The study was undertaken by Lincoln Bloomfield, a professor at MIT. His conclusions are shocking to those who love America because they reveal a cynical plan to enslave our people against their will. A world effectively controlled by United Nations is one in which world government will come about through an establishment of supranational institutions characterized by mandatory universal membership and some ability to employ physical force. Effective control would thus entail a preponderance of political power in the hands of a supranational organization. The present UN Charter could theoretically be revised in order to erect such an organization, equal to the task envisaged. Theory codifying a radical rearrangement of power in the world. So we already see semblances of these characteristics foreshadowing the world government through the initial stages of the UN among other institutions. That's why it stated that theoretically it could be revised to erect such an organization that would be known or seen as a one world government. Wasn't this prophesied in Revelation 17 verse 17, family, that the nations would give their kingdoms over to the beast, and how the beast would have world power over all the nations? So we see these things moving in sequence, and to the average person is not known because they have different pieces moving in different directions, but they're all culminating into one focal point, which is the world government. That report outlined what would be needed for such a total world government: a mandatory universal membership, an ability to use physical force, and compulsory jurisdiction of its courts. One of the UN principal features stated the report would be enforceable taxing powers. So we see that the Rothschilds already in modern ages is the founders or the forefathers of the banking system. And we know that the Rothschilds, as mentioned earlier in this book, that they are of Jewish stock. So we see that one of the powers that would be utilized by the one world government family is enforceable taxing powers, or the economy. We see the talks right now about the economy and the possibility of doing away with the cash currency and implementing a credit system. We already see that taking place in China with the credit system and how they're utilizing that against the people. This is all foretold to happen, that at some point there's going to be a world government that's going to take control of this planet. The manner in which Jews have gained dominion over these areas have been a mystery to most, but as the Jew Marcus Eli Ravitch states, the dominion is a reality. You Christians make much noise and fury about the undue Jewish influence in your theaters and movie palaces. Very good. Granted, your complaint is well founded. But what is that compared to our staggering influence in your churches, your schools, your laws, and your government, and the very thoughts you think every day? We took you in hand and pulled down the beautiful and generous structure you had reared and changed the whole course of your history. We conquered you as no empire of yours have ever subjugated Africa or Asia. And we did it all without armies, without bullets, without blood or turmoil, without force of any kind. We did it solely by the irresistible might of our spirit, with ideas, with propaganda. So you see, family, they already have taken over, as he eloquently said it, the minds, the customs, the habits, the lifestyles of the people, specifically here in America, and they're continuing this blueprint worldwide. So this right here shows you who the Edomites are today. It's the Jewish faction who are in control of a number of controlling organizations and institutions that governs the lives of the everyday man and woman. So with that, family, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. We'll delve into this a little deeper in another episode. And if you haven't already done it, like, share, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get this information out to the people, get our subscriber viewership up. And if you haven't seen my previous videos, go over to my channel, Fire Talk Radio Podcast. Definitely tune in, check those out. And with that being stated, I say shalom and peace.